Okay, welcome everyone. We are on Daf Mem Zayin Amid Beis. We're going to start with Mem Zayin Amid Aleph. I'm sorry if we have some technical difficulties for those who will be listening later, so I can't share the screen on this very basic video I have on my computer. So we'll talk, and I'll do the trick. So yeah, so I have a story for today. It's from Rabbi Yoel Gold. A story about a traditional, mildly traditional, moderately traditional Jew, young man in his late teens, early 20s, lived in Australia. He was an athlete, and he was training to compete in, I believe it was tennis. At some point, when he was young, as a teenager, he just stopped one time. He couldn't go any further. There was extreme pain in his hip. So he went to a physiotherapist, and he said, there's something wrong with your hip. So he went to for some further tests, an MRI or whatever it was, and they discovered a tumor right on his hip, not into his hip even. So he needed surgery, and they had to remove a portion of his hip. And because of that, he was unable to walk. He was wheelchair bound from then on. He became very depressed. But he decided, his parents suggested he take up wheelchair sports. He took up wheelchair, I think it was tennis or whatever the sport it was. I don't recall. Perhaps it was tennis. And he became very, very proficient in it, extremely proficient. That within 6 months, he was ready. They wanted him to go to the Paralympics, which is the Olympics that for people who are some sort of disability. Now, the background is that he was mildly traditional, and in this process, he at one point he started putting on tefillin again, something he hadn't done since his bar mitzvah. He met someone, a Kiruv rabbi, Rav, who started working with him, and he suggested he get his tefillin checked. So he went to have his tefillin checked, and they checked his tefillin, and the one word that says the tefillin are perfect. The outside, the batim are great, the ritzuos, the straps are great, the black, the tzeva, the color is great. Only one word is problematic. The word v'lechtecha is written wrong in your tefillin. There's a person who couldn't walk. So he had his tefillin fixed, and he started wearing it correctly again. A few days later, I went to a doctor, and the doctor looked at his records and looked at the MRI. Perhaps he took another MRI. He got all excited. They recently developed a 3D printer that was able to print the section of the hip that he needed replaced. They put in the section of his hip replaced. He was able to walk once again. I don't think he was playing professional tennis in the Olympics, but he was able to walk. With some challenge, but he was able to walk once again. He became Baal Tshuva in Eretz Yisrael. I think he got married, 3 kids. He was full Baal Tshuva. It was this. So the moral of the story is make sure you get your tefillin checked twice every 7 years. That too. But the moral of the story is that what? Right. The moral of the story is that you never know what Hashem has in store for us. Sometimes what seems like the worst thing turns out the best thing for us. Hashem is just trying to get us the signals in life. And so we only, with the perspective of all time, perhaps, we're able to see. But in our limited, finite wisdom, we don't know what Hashem does. But ultimately, we have faith, we can trust that Hashem is doing for our best. So that's the story for today. So now we're up to Mem Zayin Amud Aleph. I am once again, does not look like we have any connection here. I'll do one last check before. Not looking promising. Okay, so we'll just record like this. So we're on Daf Mem Zayin Amid Beis, 47-2, B, sorry, that's what it's called. But we're going to start from the bottom of 47a, Mem Zayin Amid Aleph. Yeah, the door is, we have an open door policy in this room. It's always open. Everyone's welcome. Flies. Yeah, I don't know it. Yeah. Okay. So, right. So we're discussing. Today we're going to discuss this last topic. We're going to discuss what Rabbi Abba said. Rabbi Abba said that anyone who needs to take a shua, take an oath, to say that he's not required to pay, but can't take that oath, can't take that shua, has to pay. That's what he said. He said. It says, "Mechayev shvua ve'enu yochel shava." A person who is required to take a shua and can't take a shua. Chol mechayev shvua ve'enu yochel shava mishalim. Anyone who can't needs to take an oath but can't take an oath has to pay. For example, a person who, this is just background, we'll get to that. Anyone who, for example, someone who denies owing, someone says you owe me 100, he says I don't owe you anything. He brings one witness, so he has to swear to contradict that witness. He has to take an oath, a shua. If you can't swear because of technicality, whatever the case may be, so then he has to pay. That's Rabbi Abba's principle here. We're just working within Rabbi Abba. So what we're going to do now is try to prove what Rabbi Abba said, and then we're going to go on to the next piece in the Mishnah, the Chenvani al Pinkaso. That's not. Let me turn the page. The storekeeper, who one of the Shuas Derabanan, the oath that you take, rabbinic oath, is if when there's a discussion, a disagreement between the storekeeper and the balabayas, whether he was paid or not. Okay, so let's start. We are 1-2 on Mem Zayin Amud Aleph on the bottom. We'll just this way can get the flow back, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 lines from the bottom. The first one of the line is Mishalem. Second word in Amar Rava. Amar Rava Kivasei de Rabbi Abba Mistavra. It makes sense. It's logical what Rava said. It makes sense what Rabbi Abba said. Rabbi Abba said that if you need to swear and you can't, then you have to pay. That's what we just said. Mistavra. The Tani Rabbi Ami. Does Rabbi Ami learn about this brisa? Shavuos Hashem tieh ben shnehem. The brisa quotes the pasuk. And when they have a disagreement, Shvua Hashem tieh b'neim. They take a Shvua. So what is Chazal Dorish? What do they derive from that? The lo b'nei Yorshim. They have to take a Shvua. He has to take a Shvua to the other fellow, but not the Yorshim, not those who inherit, not their inheritors. Shimon has to swear to Reuven, but not the descendants. Well, we know that sometimes he does. What's the case it's talking about? Echidami. What's the case? Ilema. If the case is that Reuven says that your father, that let's say Reuven and Shimon's descendants, they're Yershim, they're inheritors, Reuven's sons and Shimon's sons. Reuven's sons say to Shimon's sons, your father, Shimon, owed my father, Reuven, money, 100 to be exact, money. No, it was 50 I agreed to you with 50. 50, our father owed your father, but not 50. So in that case, mali hu mali avua. If that's the case, it doesn't make a difference if it's Reuven or Shimon or their descendants that are having the discussion. It's modu mixas. They partially admit. The modu mixas, when you partially admit, you have to swear to the other 50 that you claim you don't know. Take the oath, and you don't pay. If you don't take the oath, then you don't want to take the oath, and you just pay. That's a standard case. So what's this talking about? That these two people, when they have a disagreement, one swears to the other, but not the Yorshim, not the descendant. What's that case? Ella, second line from the bottom in the middle. Ella, what's the case? Ella lav the Amar le manal abba biyadavicha. The case is the descendants, the inheritors of Reuben and Shimon. Reuben said to the Shimon's children, your father owed our father 100. Manal la abba biyadavicha. Your father is holding on to 100 that's owed to our father of blessed memory. He's no longer here. So Amar le chamshin yadana v'chamshin lo yadana. They say, we know about the 50. The other 50 we're not sure about. So in that case, it's not the classic case. The classic case is we owe you owe us 100, and they say we owe you 50, not 100. So that's modus mixus. They partially admit, partially deny. In that case, you either take an oath and get out of it, or you have to pay if you don't want to take the shua. But this, they say don't know. In a case where you say you don't know about the other 50, so then you can't swear. So what do you do? So just flip the page. Just well, yeah. We'll see. Right, exactly. So more to discuss that. If you say Bishlama Aviv Ki Gavna Chayev, if you'll say in this situation, since he can't take an oath because he's in doubt, you don't take an oath about a doubt. You only take an oath about that you're sure you didn't only pay. You only owe half. But if you're in doubt, you don't take an oath. So what do you do if you don't pay? You have to pay. So it's Jekra Lemiftar Gaba Yarshin. Special limit of the pasuk would come to teach you that no, the Yarshin in that case don't pay. It's a special limit that in such a case the descendants would not have to pay. If they say we know about 50, we're not sure about the other 50, so they don't have to pay. So that would make sense why we need that special limud. Ella I Amit, and that's what Rabbi Abba holds. Rabbi Abba holds that if it's a case where you can't swear, you have to pay. Like we said before, here is a case you can't swear because you don't, not saying for sure you don't owe the 50. You're saying maybe I'm not sure about the 50. You're not sure, you don't take an oath. As Rashi says, first Rashi, Shua, mitoch ena yochel yishava, the ena yodea kamar, the ena yodea kamar l'shalom, hainu itzrikra l'mute, the miftar yorish, the toin tanazu. See, in a case where he is in doubt about it, that doesn't generate an oath, doesn't generate a shua. And therefore, when you can't take a shua, you pay. That's what Rabbi Abba said. But what's the other possibility? Second line, at the end of the line, if you'll say, like the other opinion, who said before, like Rav and Shmuel, who said when you can't have a shua, there's no one can take a shua, we just leave things as they are. If you say like that opinion, if he's in doubt whether he pays, so we don't make him take a shua, we just leave things as they are, don't make him pay. That was Rav and Shmuel's opinion. Kra gabi yarshin lamali. So what I need a pasuk by the yarshin, by their children, if they themselves, like according to Rav and Shmuel, when you can't swear because you're a suffix, you don't know whether you owe or not, so then you can't take an oath, then you don't pay. So what's the pasuk coming to teach you? What's the brisa coming to teach you about their yarshin, about their descendants? If they can't pay, certainly the descendants aren't paying. So it makes sense, like Rabbi Abba said, that in a case where when you're in doubt and you don't know what's going on, you don't know the situation, like here you say 50 I know, 50 I'm not sure about, you can't swear, so you pay. So then it makes sense. The Yarshim, in that case, are off the hook. That's what it makes sense. So that's kind of a proof to Rabbi Abba. When you don't know, when you're in a situation where you can't swear, you'd have to pay.
So why doesn't the one who's being owed swear that if he only got 50 as opposed to 100?
The one who is owed?
Yeah.
No, so in this case, that's an interesting question you're asking.
Because I don't know, but the one who's owed the money is owed to, swears that I only received 50, not the 100.
It's an excellent question. I think the distinction between that, and they normally have like someone who's suspect and you can't take an oath, so you flip the oath to the other party, right? That's what you're saying. Here they don't not sure, flip the oath to the other party. I think it seems like the only time we do that, flip the oath, we exchange the oath to the other party, is when that party inherently can't take the oath. There's a problem with him. He can't take the oath. Here, he technically can take the oath. He's just not sure.
He's not sure, then it's can be either yes or no. So if he's not sure, he may be paid falsely.
Right. I agree with you. It seems like why don't we just say machlef shua here? Just let the lender let the lender tell them. Right.
I swear I only received 50, not 100.
Right. That's a good question. I assume the answer is that we only flip the oath like that to that party when there's something inherently wrong with that person. There's something that he's knocked out of the parsha entirely of taking an oath. He's choshed al shua. I think that's the answer. Yeah, it's a good question. The question's better than the answer.
Yeah. When the person said when the claim is say Yoshin say and we're not sure about the other 50.
Right.
Okay. What's the stopping from saying we're not sure about the other 1,000?
The other 50.
Why stop at 50? Oh, amigo, listen, I could have said this. Therefore, we're only saying 50 because we know we heard there was something, but we don't know. How can you make a claim based on something? You don't know something. You don't know. It's not a claim at all.
They're being honest. They could just deny the whole thing. And there's obviously there's no star.
Kicks in. I could have said that he for sure owes me even more.
Well, they're coming forth an honest claim. They're doing the thing they're doing is a little bit better than being. The worst thing they could do is say 50 we know, and we don't know you 50. Nothing about the 50. Then that would generate a shua. Or if they don't want to take the shua, they have to pay. What they're doing is a little bit better than that for themselves, their own better. They're saying, we don't know, which then potentially, in this case, will make them pay. Would make them pay according to Rabbi Abba. I think we pass like that. Right. Yeah. We pass like that.
No, one second. Let's keep our pronouns.
Yeah.
Straight.
So in this case, they have to pay. We pass like that too. It seems that they say we don't know. And you don't know means you can't swear, so you have to pay. It's actually pretty bad taina. It's for them for their benefit. What's stopping them from making a better taina? They're honest. They could just deny the whole thing. There's no witnesses. There's no star. They could just say we know what you're talking about. But so that they're. And you have to come on to me. This is what they're being honest. Yeah.
If there's nothing, then think. But I just said it's incumbent on the one that's owed the money. Say I do a shvua that I only see 50, as opposed to he doesn't know.
Like he could say that. Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah. That would get them into trouble. I don't know 50. Yeah, saying only 50 means to deny the other 50.
He can't swear, so it's judgment against him.
Yeah. Yeah. If they say if he only talks about the 50, it doesn't mention the other 50 at all. That's like denying the 50. So then you have to take shua.
That's a kangaroo court.
Kangaroo court. Yeah. Okay. So, our first story was about Australia this morning, so we talked about kangaroos. Yeah. Okay. Probably warm in Australia now. Okay. Okay. So we continue. So according to Rav Shmuel, this drasha, as a side point, we're going to mention a side point now that Rav and Shmuel, what do they do with this drasha? It's not necessary for them. The drasha made sense for Rabbi Abba, that in this case, when he can't swear, so then they have to pay. Then the father would have to pay, but not the Yarshim, not the descendants. But Rav and Shmuel don't hold that. They hold that never you have to pay. If no one can swear, you just freeze and don't do anything. So what did Rav and Shmuel do with this pasuk? The pasuk was Shavuos Hashem tiye b'nechem. That was the pasuk. Shavuos Hashem tiye b'nechem. The Shavuos Hashem between the two of them. So if you think about it, only one side is swearing. You don't have both parties swear. I mean, you could technically have either the malva or the lova swearing, depending on the case. Depending if one's chashud or something like that. He's suspect and can't swear. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 lines down. The Rav Shmuel, right in the middle. Rav Shmuel. Hi Shavuos Hashem, my kadarish darshibe. How do they darshan this pasuk? What do they derive from this pasuk? What is it needed for? Miboilate needed lechadetanya, as we learned in the Brisa. Shimon ben Tarfon, Shimon ben I think it's Rebbe Tarfon. Omer, he says, Shavuos Hashem teh ben shnehem. The shvua should be between the two of them, like the mav and the lomet. You owe me, no, I don't owe you. Brings one witness, swear them, whatever the case may be. That the shvua takes effect on both of them. So we've had this drasha before, if you remember. And Tosfos here enlightens us, reminds us, whatever, to what is talking about. The second to last Tosfos, second wide line in Tosfos, Chala al Shnehem. The nanash hamashbia afilu adin imo. What does it mean that the shvua is on both of them? Let's say the lender says you owe me 100, and the borrower says no, it's only 50. So now he has to take an oath, right? And he swears he doesn't know anything. So somebody's lying here. So you'd say, why is the lender held responsibility for this oath? He didn't swear falsely. So Tosa says, no, that even the mashpia, the one who's causing the other person to swear, even the lender who's causing the borrower to swear here, is considered liable for the oath, for making him swear falsely. The pirish bekuntris bereish hadayanim, as Rashi said in the previous parak, he points out, Rashi has told us, test, look at the inside, doesn't quote it, so I'll just quote it briefly. That both the lova and the malva are punished. Why is the lova? Why is the malva? Why is the lender punished? He's not swearing falsely. Why? He was not careful to lend his money to someone who was trustworthy, and as a result, it went to Chil Hashem. They didn't say a false oath. He says Chil Hashem, the desecration of Hashem's name, that the guy's going to swear falsely. So to a certain extent, that's what it means. Shua ben Shnehem. That's how Rav and Shmuel learn it. They learn it like Shimon ben Tarfon. Shavuos Hashem Tibenem, the oath of Hashem should be between them, means they're both liable. Even the lender is liable for lending money to a slightly shady character that ultimately comes to the fact that the guy's going to swear falsely and he's causing a chil Hashem, causing a desecration of Hashem's name.
That's not the case with Rabbi Abba in the last case, because Rabbi and Shmuel saying the oath of Hashem is between them. Here, nobody's swearing. The case has gone against the borrower. He thinks that he's given him 50. I don't know about the other 50.
Right.
No one swears.
According to yeah.
According to Rabbi Abba,
Yeah.
but no one swears, and he has to pay. Here, Rav Shaul would say, we disagree with others, exempted defendant who is unable to swear.
Right.
Now, it's going against the oath of Hashem. It's between them. Either this one swears, it carries over there, or this one swears over there. But on this case before, nobody swears.
Correct. You're right. Correct. Rav and Shmuel say no one swears. They just no one can swear in
In
this.
the case, it's going against the borrower.
So
the guy
right.
who don't know.
Right. It's not a proof. It's not a proof here we're giving or against. He's just saying this pasuk is open for derivation. What are we doing with this pasuk here?
Yeah.
And we do something else. We do have a special limud that in general cases where the party does swear, it can lead to a great that both sides are liable.
Right.
Yeah.
But on this particular case, it doesn't come into
You're right.
effect.
Right.
The pasuk that they're talking about isn't referring to what you just said. He's bringing it general.
Right.
Now we're talking about which we haven't spoken about all throughout the entire Sefer. Now all of a sudden you say, let's stop, we're coming to the end, right? So now they're saying, by the way, the whole point of making the guy of when you're dealing with people who are less than
honest,
okay, is that you're going to go also get the blame.
Right. Okay, so now that we brought one limud of Rav Shimon ben Tarfon, we're going to bring some other ones. They're not really related. So it seems at least, that are from Shimon ben Tarfon. So we continue. Shimon ben Tarfon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, 8 lines down. So 8 lines down. The Shimon ben Tarfon. The second time it says Shimon ben Tarfon on the page in the start. Shimon ben Tarfon Omer. Ashara la'akov achar noev minayin. How do we? Where's the source of the prohibition against someone who's la'akov achar noev? It's, as Rashi says, it's a person who masa lo apitropos lahargil lo nashim l'niyuf. Someone who arranges adultery. He kind of helps the person commit adultery. How do we know that's also prohibited? He's not committing adultery. He's just assisting the person to get willing parties. Azar al-Okov achar noev minayin. We know that Talmud Lomar lo sinaf. The pasuk says in the Sarah Sadibros, it says in the Ten Commandments, it says lo sinaf, do not, this is Russian, do not commit adultery. And we darshan that, we derive from that lo sanif, don't cause others to do adultery. From there, we learn that helping others, causing others to commit adultery is also prohibited. Wonder if he says that about other prohibitions, lo signov, anything else, but that's the drush we have here. And it continues, another drasha from Rav Shimon ben Tarfon. V'teragnu ba'alechem, and they quarreled and they slandered in their tents. This is from the talking by the Meraglim, the 10 spies. The spies came back, 10 who punished, but there were 12 spies altogether. 10 spies who slandered, who spoke lashon hara, negative words about the land of Israel. And the pasuk says in Dvarim, v'teragnu ba'alechem, they slandered and quarreled in their tents. The Tomer b'sinas Hashem osano hotzianu meretz Yisrael, in the hate of God forbid, that's what they said. He took us out of Egypt. L'seitz osano b'yad ha'omori lashmidina, to put us in the hands of the Amorites, to obliterate us. That's what they were saying. So what does this word v'teragnu ba'alechem, alechem in your tents mean? B'shim ben Tarfon omer tartem v'ginisam ba'olo shal makom. They tartem, as Rashi says, as haaretz, they slander the land. V'ginisam, as Rashi says, as hamakom, ishchin es shchinaso b'nechem. They slandered at that Hashem, that he dwells his presence among them. So they slander Hashem and Eretz Yisrael and everything. That's what it means. That's another drasha. Now another drasha from Rabbi Shimon ben Tarfon. The pasuk says also in Devarim, Ad Nar Hagadol Nahar Paras. Nahar Paras, isn't it? Ad Nahar Hagdol Nahar Paras. No, there's no Zeh. Nahar Gadol Nahar Pras. He says the great Euphrates River. That's the border, the northern border. It passed Lebanon. That's what it says. That's how far it would go, should go, Eretz Israel at least. Um, that's the northern border. It calls the Euphrates the Great Euphrates River. I've never seen the Euphrates. I have no plan of going to that part of the world. Wherever it is, Iraq, isn't it? No immediate plans to go visiting. Um, so it says it calls it the Great River of Pras, the Great Euphrates River. So the question is, it's not so great. If you see Shimon ben Tarfon well, before we do that, a little background. As Rashi explains, in the Bereshis, when it talks about the four rivers that went out of Eden, it talks about the fourth one is Arvi Pras. It's not that big. So why is it calling it Pras here so big? So Shimon ben Tarfon Omer, Karav Legabe Dahina V'idhan. Person who comes close, as Rashi says, Im Nagas b'mashuach b'shemen, if you touch someone who's anointed with oil, Hey Gam Mashuach b'nigiyaso, you also become oily. You also get anointed with your, you also become, you pick up some of the oil from touching the person. So it's like the greatness of the Euphrates River is not because of its size, it's because of its proximity to Eretz Israel. That's what makes it great. That's why it calls it in this pasuk. When it talks about the four rivers that go out of Eden, it doesn't need to tell us anything about it. But here, when it's addressing it as a border of Eretz Israel, it talks about it as great because it's great because of where it is, its proximity. Just like if you touch something that's figuratively great, it's great by association. Yeah.
That's a good word.
Figuratively, yeah. The Bey Rabbi Shmuel, the academy, the yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel, they learn the following. Right? Tana, Eved Melach Kimelach. How do we learn it? The servant of a king is like the king, like association. It's also great. By association, by proximity, it's great. Just like the Nahar Pras is also great. So yeah, so these are some. Once we brought down, often the Gemara does that. Once it brings down one memra, one teaching, one limud of a particular Tana or Mara or whatever, it continues and says some more. That's why I brought them here. And that brings us to the next section of the Mishnah, the Chanvani al Pinkaso. If you remember, the case is that you have a Chanvani, a storekeeper, and the Balabayas, the fellow, he tells customer, you want to call him, he tells the storekeeper, please let my workers, let them get their pay with you. I'll come and get food from you as my pay. And then the store owner comes to the Balabayas, the owner, not the owner, the fellow, and he says, well, you have to pay me. I'm sorry, so the other way. That's the case. Again, I'll start over. The Chadvani says, I paid the workers, and the workers said they would never get paid. So who has to pay? What's the case? So let's just look at it again. I'll flip back for a second, if I can find it here in my Chanvani al Pinkaso in the Mishnah. I'll go to the Mishnah. That's helpful. The Mishnah said on Mem Hey and Aleph, Chanvani al Pinkaso. Let's just take a look for a second. Chanvani al Pinkaso. Where is it? Sorry, to find it. Okay, here it is. Okay. Chanvani al Pinkaso. So Tain La Sasayin Chitin. Mechani al Pinkaso. Ketzad. Tain La Livni or Sasayin, or Tain La Poli Selamos, Omer Nasati, V'hem Omer Lo Natlu. And the owner, the store owner, the Chanvani, the storekeeper says, I paid your workers. And the worker says, we never received. So who does it? Hu nishba benotel, v'he nishba benotel. The storekeeper swears that he paid the workers, and then the Balabayas has to pay him. And the workers swear that they were not paid, and the Balabayas also has to pay them. So he has to pay twice. And they each have to swear. And Banana said, let's do it outside. No, they both get paid, but we can't have both parties swearing because obviously someone's not telling the truth. Okay, so let's do that inside. So now we're back to Mem Zayin Beis, Chanvani al Pinkaso. Okay, so now Rebbe's going to say something. We're trying to figure out what Rebbe means. So Tanya, learn the Brisa. I'm a Rebbe. Hudanasi, the compiler of the Mishnah, says, Tareach shua zelama. What's all this tircha, this training, this? Why are you working so hard? Shua lama. Why we have all this shua? Now, Rashi explained what that means. First Rashi was Rashi from the Mishnah here, and then the Gemara. So the first Rashi, and where it says Gimel Mem, Tareach shua lama sheshneim bon lebestin. They both come to bestin. Shetetzi shua shav mibnehem. Below perish Rebbe my sphirale. So Rebbe doesn't. We don't really know what Rebbe holds. Id notlin below shua ben nanas. What does he mean when Rebbe said tareach shua lamali? What's all this tircha with the shua? What is all this shua? Maybe he holds like ben nanas. It says they collect, both parties, both the workers and the storekeeper get their pay, but he doesn't swear. Oh yafsit chanvani b'shuas polim. Or perhaps Rebbe means something completely different. That the storekeeper has to pay the workers himself, not the balabais, not the boss. We call him that. So we'll see. We're not sure what Rebbe holds. That's what the Brisa says. Tanya Amar Rebbe, back to the Gemara. Tanya Amar Rebbe, Tareach Shua Zeh Lama, Zu Lama. What is this all about? So Amar Le Rebbe Chia, his Talmud said, Tanina, we already learned this in the Mishnah that you Rebbe wrote, and you had a Stam Mishnah. You wrote an opinion, the Tanakama, without, and presumably that's what you would hold. Shnehem nishban v'noten mibalabayis. That both the storekeeper, who claims he already paid them, and the workers who claimed they did not receive their pay, get paid from the balabais. The balabais has to pay the workers because they claim they've never received their pay, and he has to pay the storekeeper because the storekeeper claims that he paid the workers already for him. So he's out twice. That's what it seems from the Mishnah that he holds. That's what seems, according to Rebbe Chia, that's what Rabbi holds.
So, are we saying that the boss pay the worker said he didn't get paid, and the boss is saying the worker didn't give him money for goods? Is that what they're saying?
There's the boss who hired workers. And he has the storekeeper pay the workers for him, right? So the storekeeper claims he paid already the workers. Yeah. So the boss over here has to pay the storekeeper back for what he paid the workers. And the workers claim they never got paid from the storekeeper. So the boss has to pay the workers also. So it's paying twice. Yeah, don't get into this arrangement. That's the moral of the story. Right. Okay. So kiblamine or lo kiblamine? Did Rebbe agree to what to Rabbi Chia said? He agrees. In other words, does he hold like Rabbi Chia? Does he hold that both, like we said earlier, that the boss, if you want to call him that, the man who hired the workers has to pay both the storekeeper and the workers? So Tashma, bring your raya from a brayso. So the Tanya was doing the brayso. Rabbi Omer, Rabbi says the following: Polin nishbain. In this case, the Polin, the workers take an oath lechenvani, to the storekeeper. Now wait a second. Who's paying? He said. He said that the boss is paying, not the storekeeper. Him isam. If it's like we said that they both take an oath, both the workers and the storekeeper, the chanvani, take an oath, and then the balabayas pays them. The balabayas mi boile. The workers should be taking an oath to the person who they're collecting from, the person who they are collecting from, which is the balabayas. Not why does it take chanvani? Seems like Rebbe might not hold what we said before, that both the workers and the chanvani, the workers and the storekeeper swear, they both collect. Seems like not the case. So Amarava, no, it's not the case. No, really, Rebbe holds that both the workers and the chanvani take an oath to the balabais, to the boss of the workers, and they collect. So why did it say that they swear to the storekeeper? Amarava polim nishbam lebalabayis b'mamad chanvani. No, it means that the workers take an oath to their boss in the presence of the chanvani, the storekeeper. Why? In order to be embarrassed of them. They both, as we said this a while ago in the Rambam. So this, of course, this is from the Rambam. The Rambam said that that when both of them swear, and we said the case is like the Tanakama, both parties swear before they collect. They have to take. Obviously, one of them is false, but in order to make sure that they're really honest with what they're saying, at least they think they're honest. They're in all good faith. They're saying the truth. We make them take an oath in front of each other to sort of add another layer of precaution to assure they're telling the truth. Make them a little bit embarrassed to swear falsely. If holding the Sefer Torah, this is a Shua D'Rabbanan, so according to those who say Shua D'Rabbanan, you hold the Torah, and Shem Hashem, the whole 9 yards. Is that English? Is that an American expression? Yeah, you're about to destroy the world, and you're as bad as it gets. No, please go ahead and swear. Yeah. After that, just one more. We take it seriously. It's one more precaution. Yeah. Okay. So there we are. Okay. So as we march forward here. Okay. So Itmar, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines from the bottom. Last word on the line is Itmar. We're going to discuss a similar related case about witnesses contradicting each other, like we had before, but not directly related, but close enough, they say, to make it work. So Itmar, Shtei Kite Edim Machisho Zuesu, 2 pairs of witnesses that contradict each other in a case. They contradict each other. Rashi gives an example, the second wide line of Rashi. Shnayim omrim harag, v'shnayim omrim lo harag. 2 people said that he killed, that the witnesses, and 2 said he didn't kill. They're not Edim Zomim. They're not contradicting each other. They're not saying, how could you have said that at the time because you were with us? So obviously, they're not Edim Zomim. It's just regular 2 witnesses that contradict. So obviously, one of the 2 pairs is false. It's not telling the truth. You would presume that well, the question is, how does it affect their status as witnesses? Can they then, in a future case, go and testify? So let's go. Itmar Shnei Kite Edim, 2 pairs of witnesses that contradict each other. Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna, it says in future cases, as Rashi says, Zuba b'fnei atzma umida, v'zuba b'fnei atzma umida. They may have had a track record where they were suspect, but in 2 separate cases, each of them, as they're standing in their separate cases to testify in the future, we don't assume that they're false. Like, you have Reuven, Shimon, and Levi Yehuda. They're contradicting each other. Then in the future, 2 weeks later, you're each giving separate testimonies about separate cases. So Reuven and Shimon come to this case. Can we trust them? We assume they're good, even though they're in a case where they're possibly false, says Rav Huna. And the second pair also, we assume. If they come at the same time, the same case, we're going to discuss soon. But this particular case, when they're both coming separately, we assume they're good. That's Rav Huna. With these lying witnesses, how can we trust them? What do I need them for? How can we possibly trust them? Obviously, there is a aspect of falsehood here. Someone is telling something false. So if they present themselves, each pair of witnesses, they present themselves as witnesses in a future case, we can't trust their testimony anymore, says Rav Chisda. Rav Huna says they can, and in future cases, Rav Chisda says he can't. Now that's a very basic law. What if that's because each is taken on its own separate testimony? Rav Chisda, we understand. There's a doubt about these witnesses. They may have said something false, testified something false. In future cases, we can't use them. Rav Huna says each one is still in its own right. We have to assume that they're telling the truth. They're not blacklisted, if you will, from being witnesses. But what?
I'm talking about 2 pairs of witnesses on one case.
Initially, we're talking about one case. That's the first.
For example, I saw a pair of witnesses saw Yitzchak say he took something from a shelf, right? And another pair of witnesses coming later says, "What are you talking about? Yitzchak was us in Netanya."
No.
The second set is believed, and not the first set.
No. That's an Edim Zomim case. How could it be? How could you testify X, Y, and Z? You were with me in a different place at the same time. That would be Edim Zomim.
But isn't this more or less the same?
It's these are not Edim Zomim. That would knock them out for sure. But
they're not Zomim, but obviously one of them are lying.
One says, Reuven stole this cup of tea. That's what's a Shabbat. Let's say he stole this container of water. And they said, no, he wasn't. We were there. We didn't see him. We didn't steal it. I know the exact particular circumstances, how it works.
Didn't.
No, don't say with us because
where other witnesses come and cancel out witnesses. Right? The tough ones are called Edim because we say that you were with us, you couldn't give them this agent.
Yeah.
There's nothing what we're talking about here. We're talking about the actual parties to the transaction. for the debt or the custodianship.
Yeah.
One of them is a road.
Right.
One of them is cut the thing for himself, he's a custodian, and because he wants it, so he's denying it. The other one is simply saying, no, I've got the money, I don't want to repay my debt, so I know how to get out of it.
Right.
In both cases, potentially, people are using the system, abusing the system of evidence to get off a liability.
Right. Somebody's not in the up and up, as they say. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's up to the Dayanim. That's why the Dayanim always want to see both parties invariably at the same time in front of them.
Right.
They learn a lot from body language.
Right. Right. It's a lot of that's right. Not everything is
way back when from Shlomo Miller.
Right.
We had these two ladies.
Right.
He threw out a statement, and that way he sussed out who was telling a lie.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
That's why you have to be a dayan. You have to be a psychologist.
Yeah. Chachavim and Barosha. Yeah.
You're on the road.
I'm sorry.
You are on the road.
On the road.
You're the psychologist.
Right.
But you just have to get to do
Right.
shots.
I only did it twice. So I'll do a third.
You work on it.
Yeah. Okay. Baruch Hashem. Yeah. Yeah. I said I think the Rav one said, he says, it's a comment like until you go through all the Tosfos, then so that's another accomplishment. Yeah. Anyway, I think Rav Kaduri knew all of Tosfos by heart. Yeah. Anyway, so you learn a lot of Gemara. You learn to associate, associate this and the. And where am I now? Anyway, so we're back to where we were. So Rav Chisda says these two witnesses, the two witnesses say it happened, they say it didn't happen, whatever. They're two, obviously one of the pairs lie. So Rav Huna said we don't assume that they're false, each one on his own merit, and Chisda says they're thrown out as witnesses. We can't trust them. So now we're going to apply what they said to practical cases, variations of what we're talking about, and see what they would hold. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom. Right in the middle. Shnei malvin v'shtei lovin v'shtei shtaros. You have a case of two malvas, two lenders, two borrowers, and two contracts and two sets of witnesses. In other words, the case is Reuven lent money to Shimon, and the witnesses are previous witnesses that contradicted each other. One set is with this group, and then you have Levi and Yehuda here. Levi lent money to Yehuda, and you have the other set of witnesses for them are the previous witnesses that contradict each other. So are they good? Do they work? So that says, Hainu pligtayu, says that's our very machlokas. It's a case, a new case, two new separate cases, and each set of witnesses is by each separate case. Can they work? Rav Huna says, yeah, they're still good. Rav Chisda says, no, they're lying, so we can't believe it. Okay, so we'll go on to the next case, a little bit more complex. Malva v'lova, you have one lender and one borrower, b'shtei shtaros, and two loans. In other words, Reuven lent money for Shimon once, let's say 100 shekel, and Reuven lent Shimon again 50 shekel. Now, in each of these transactions, there were two different sets of witnesses. And those two sets of witnesses for the two transactions were those two witnesses who contradicted each other before. So now, what's the case? Reuven lent 100 to Shimon, and the second with these two witnesses who contradicted the other witnesses before, and Reuven lent Shimon again 50 shekel, let's say, and the witnesses were different, the other set of witnesses from before who contradicted each other. So, do we believe these witnesses or not? Right. So it's Malva v'lova v'shnei shtaros Yad bal hashtar al tachtona. The Yad bal hashtar is al tachtona. This is both according to Rav Huna and Rav Chisda. So Rashi explains that what do we do? It says Rashi in the very end of Rashi says Manav shach hakotan gova diyesh b'chal masayim mana. He collects the lower of the two debts. Now we know this is Reuven and Shimon have two loans between each other. Shimon owes Reuven either 100, 150. That's the two things. Now one of these two witnesses is false, and one of them is true. Even Rav Chisda would agree that one of these two is true, and even Rav Huna would admit that one of them is false. They're in the same standing there with regard to the same parties. one of them is true and one of them is false. Even Rav Huna would agree one of them is false, and one of them is true. Definitely one's true. So they would say that he has to give the lower amount. You can't pay both because the testimony is clearly false. One of the two testimonies is clearly inaccurate, because one of these two is we can't trust when they're both standing in front of us. Rav Huna wouldn't say they're still good. Doesn't mean across the board they're good. I mean, in the individual case, we can say they're false. But when they're standing with their other set of witnesses, one of that two is false. So we have to say that one of these two testimonies is false, but one of them is true. So which one do we go by? We go by the lesser of the two values. Like a motzim v'chaver al haraya, you only give them the lower of the two amounts, the 50. You can collect the 50. Not the 100, the 50. It's allowed the two. One of them is definitely false. Okay. Another case. 3 lines on the bottom. Shtei malvin, the lova echad. 2 lenders and 1 borrower. Reuven and Shimon lend to Levi. They both lend 100 shekel to Levi, and mishtei shtaros. And each transaction was done with the two witnesses, 2 and 2 from the previous case, from the previous interaction where one of them is clearly false. So you have 2 lenders, Reuven and Shimon. They both lent money separately to Levi. With these 2 separate contracts, there's 2 separate witnesses. So what do we say there? So there, very interestingly, the Mishnah says, Hainu masnisin. That's the case of our Mishnah. In other words, that would be our case. Each of them is trying to collect from, it's like our case. How is it like our case before? The case of this is the connection to it. This is the case of the Chenvani al Pinkasa. Why? The Chenvani, the store owner, the boss, let's call him, he told the store owner to pay his workers. The workers claimed they weren't paid. And the storekeeper claims he was paid. What do? They each swear and they collect their money. The same thing here. Even it's impossible for both of them to really, you can't both be true. And yet we still say they collect. So too here. You have 2 lenders. Each of them is claiming the money. Even though it's impossible for both ones to be accurate, not impossible, it's quite possible, 2 different loans, but it's impossible that both of these sets of witnesses are telling the truth, and yet they still can collect, because each on its own right, we look at each in a vacuum, just like the case of the Chenvani, the store here. We look at the workers, they say they weren't paid. We look at that in a vacuum. And we look at the Chenvani who says he was paid them. We look at that in a vacuum. So each of them gets paid, just like this case. Each lender gets paid. Yes.
We've got 2 scenarios, and you know the circumstances we're discussing. There's a liar here.
Yes.
Yeah? So I don't know what it is. This seems at the moment the poor shopkeeper gets caught out. But if the rabbis know there's a liar here, how can they endorse that person benefiting? That's what I'm saying. Surely they just say, one of you is lying, we can't make a decision.
Right.
The basic situation, possession is 10% of the law, that's it.
Yeah.
Why don't they come to that conclusion?
Right. The reason is logic is with you, I admit. And because the Chenvani, the storekeeper, how could they both, that's what Rabbanan said, how could they both swear it? It's impossible. He said in this case, it's like we look at them individually. Each claim is an individual malva. It's not like, we're going to see in a second, we have what lova.
You're looking at each one separately. So you say this, but I'm trying to say, well, when the rabbis sit down and they're looking at them, they try to always look at the whole picture, surely. That's what I'm trying to argue. I'm trying to hear the answer.
Right.
Why aren't they looking at it?
Right.
At the whole picture. That's my question.
That's a good question. What's the svar of the Tanakama? What's the svar here? It's a good question. Good question. That's we understand the other side. What Banana said. How could they both swear? Yeah, I understand. It's a good question. I'm just telling you what Rashi says. That's how we look at it. That's how we got to the Mishnah. That's the comparison. Just like we look each individually and separate. So maybe this will get a little bit more insight. The last case here. Last case, the second to last line, third word in, Beis Lovin, you have 2 borrowers, Umal ve'echad, and 1 lender, Ushtei shtaros. In other words, Reuven lent money to Shimon and Levi. In both cases has the shtar, the witnesses for the case are, for both loans, our two witnesses from before, or two sets of witnesses in question. So now you have one malva and two lova. So the question is, so my. Gemara says teku. In that case, we have to leave it up in the air. Why? Because how do we look at it from whose perspective? We look at it from the perspective of the malva. It's one malva, one lender. From his perspective, he has two sets of witnesses, and one is definitely lying. From you're saying he wants to collect, but there's definitely the two witnesses from his perspective are contradictory. It can't be. But what about from the other perspective?
Teku means that it rests where it is.
Right.
So why can't I say the same in the previous case?
So, or let me just finish. Or do we say that we take it from the perspective of the lova? In this case, why is it a take? Because either we take it from the perspective of the malva, and the loaner says we have two cases here. And each one is one malva, right? And and from him, his perspective is one thing, and there's both of them are contradictory. But for the lova, there's two separate loans, loan A and loan B. He owes both. From his perspective, there's two sets of witnesses. Each look in a vacuum individually. So how do we look at it? From the lowest perspective, each is in a vacuum, and then in fact we can trust the witnesses or not. From the malva's perspective, it's a loaner. They're one. He owes both are owed. So it's from one perspective, two witnesses. We knock them out. So we say teku.
Same possession is 9/10 of the law.
Correct.
So
Right.
whoever is holding it,
I think I'm
he must be believed.
really do.
Teku, you're all right. You're in good company. It says Teku. It's a draw.
A draw.
There's no answer.
It's you're all right. It needs a lot more explanation. It needs thought and thought.
Borrow 100 shekels each from me, 200 shekels. Right?
When was that?
Wait a second. Both signed by the same set of witnesses, right? Witness, I've got a star from them, signed. Witness from their star. Why can't I collect? Why can't I collect?
No, it says star here.
It's a star. Each one get a star. Why does it say let it stand? Why can't it collect? I don't understand that.
Which case?
Look, I lent Joe 100 shekel and I lent Yitzchak 100 shekel, right? I've got a pair of witnesses sign that one and same pair of witnesses sign this one. Two different stars.
No, not two separate witnesses.
Oh, two separate. Okay,
And both are suspect.
two separate witnesses.
Suspect witnesses.
So there's two separate witnesses for Joe, two separate witnesses for Yitzchak. They both owe me 100 shekels each, right? Why can't I collect? Why does it stand? I don't understand that.
Because from your individual perspective, you're looking at collecting from on the basis of false witnesses. From your perspective,
But the witnesses is signed in front of the
Yeah, but you look at note 26, one of these documents is false. Even though it's got signatures on it, somehow.
So how can it be false if you're borrowing two people are borrowing from the same person? How can it be false?
But that's the premise that's come towards the deed. But when you look at the documents carefully, you find that one of these documents
It's two
is
documents.
conveyed to say it's not really a case of two, it's a case of one kosher and one trade.
That's what's going on. If they were both
Really true.
I hear your argument. But here in this case, there really is one.
and the issue is
You know, the problem is, Alan, you're straightforward and honest. You can't conceive that there's devious people around that would do these tricks.
Also,
the Gemara says if two borrowers.
that's the point. There's two borrowers.
There's two.
Who do you collect from?
borrowers.
You can't if it's one borrower and two malvas. The case is two. Who do you collect? We say just collect one of them, right? You can't. Who do you collect from? One of them. You can't just say, well, I'll take the smaller one or the larger one. Okay. So we'll hold it here. The last words on the line are Masir Rav Yehuda Bar Yehuda. Rav Yehuda is going to ask a question. Rav Yehuda Bar Yehuda is going to ask a question from a Mishnah. We'll get to that tomorrow. It's Hashem.